Right, I want to talk about how we've approached the project for the University of Derby. So we've obviously listened very, very carefully to what Paulina has said and what she's taught us and tried to apply those techniques. But I'm also going to talk to you about how the project actually fits into our structure and some of the things that we're doing anyway that we can kind of naturally piggyback the project on that make our life hopefully easier as we progress. So the background to the project, it really absolutely for us was the right place, right time really. The university has 3 years ago invested in a new student record system which gave us all sorts of opportunities to take forward our services for our students. We introduced online enrolment for our students. We'd always asked us, well, for a long time we'd asked our students to be keying in their details on the screens themselves, but they'd done that on campus, and this gave us an opportunity to do it virtually. So we'd introduced that new online enrolment process. So technically we were moving forward in terms of how we were engaging with students, and we were also using a lot more different communication techniques like texting, emailing, with our students to develop our relationship. And there's been an awful lot of activity about customer relationship management prior to a student arriving at the university, and this was an opportunity for us to focus post-arrival. We also have a student experience strategy which has been in place at the university. This is the 4th year of that strategy, and it's grown out of a student retention strategy which was has been in place with us for 6 years now. The student experience strategy is a funded strategy by the institution, part of the university's corporate plan, and it aims to improve programme management and organisation, student support and personal development, the culture of the institution in terms of placing students at the heart of what we do, and strengthening the student voice on campus. And we've got all sorts of innovative ways in which we are engaging students in feedback and trying to strengthen that voice. Close partnership with the student union. We do surveys and questionnaires, but we do all sorts of other things as well. Like we've got a big inflatable, what we call the Vigloo, which goes out in some of our big social spaces. So it's a big inflatable thing with video inside, and we're basically, the idea initially was kind of based on your video diary room and things like that. So we asked the students to go in, and that's always associated with our feedback campaigns. So we have the questionnaire and the statistics, which a lot of people find very, that's the data on which they're going to base their decisions. For others, it's the personal stories that students tell through the video. So you get a student saying, this happened to me, it made me feel like this because of that, and it had that consequence to me. So that kind of understanding of the student's personal impact is quite a powerful message. So we have a kind of platform of the student experience strategy and strengthening the student voice on campus. What we also have through the student experience strategy is a real focus on student employability. Derby is one of 2 English universities who run their own student employment agency. Last year we employed 1,400 students on campus through our student employment agency, and again that gives us a fantastic structure in which to engage students in this project, and we were very keen to make sure that it wasn't a management-led project. It was also it's a real partnership between the university and the students. The structure of the team, we were keen to make sure that we associated the project with the student experience strategy. I'm responsible for the student experience strategy for the Career Development Centre, Programme Advisory Service, Complaints and Appeals. And it made sense to fit this project into that structure. So I'm the project lead. I was also responsible for the project that introduced online enrolment. And I was previously the records manager, so I've come with that kind of experience of how that works, and now I'm looking much more holistically at the student journey and the induction of students in those first experiences, as well as the retention of students, so the transition between being first and second and third year. So all of those elements it made sense to pull into the project. Jean Mutton, who's our project manager, she has been with the university for a long time. She's got an awful lot of experience across quality assurance, quality enhancement, faculty administration. She's worked in the central administration as well, so she's really very experienced, brings an awful lot of knowledge, and also strong networking across the institution, which is fantastic for bringing in academic staff, for example, to be able to engage effectively with the project. As I said, we have a very strong culture of student employment, and Rachel is our student placement on the project. We felt it was really important to not just bring in students to take part in focus groups and other activities, but to make sure that we had a student working with us over the duration of the project. Rachel, do you want to say a bit about your role?
Yeah. I do a variety of things from, we did a lot of time card collection, and I kind of fronted that, and we got some students to help him with that. I helped a lot with the mystery shoppers. We had some students write about their experience. We also had video diaries, similar to what Sue was saying about the Vigloo. Just a lot of helping out, and I sit on the project board obviously and give my view and the student view, which I feel is quite important because unfortunately a lot of members of staff don't really understand what it's like for students. And from staff focus group, actually, they mentioned that if they could see the enrolment, what it was like for them, they'd have empathy for us because they have no idea what it's like. So for me, I do like giving my opinion and obviously helping the staff understand what it's like for us. So that's my role.
Okay, thanks, Rachel. And Paulina, of course, is our other very important member of our team who brings expertise in terms of service design and service enhancement techniques, keeps our focus on the application of those techniques, and is also just a fantastic sounding board in terms of what we might be doing right or wrong in different areas, and how we're doing, and what's the next stage that we need to go through. So we found having Paulina engaged in the project to be just invaluable, really. In terms of the governance of the project, it's linked to the Student Experience Strategy Group, which is chaired by Pro-Vice Chancellor of the institution. We set up a programme project management committee, which is chaired by Russell Roberts, who you met earlier, who is responsible for the ongoing operation of enrolment as a key part of the transition process. So we're keen to make sure that we're engaging there. The membership of the group includes the student union, the faculties, the library, technical expertise, as well as the people who deliver enrolment and induction activities. So we're really keen to make sure it covered all of the bases, really, in terms of different people who are involved in that complex relationship, really, with students during those transition periods. The approach that we decided to take was Paulina delivered some workshops, the service design technique presentation that you've just heard, and also a bit later a service improvement, service enhancement technique workshop. We had originally scheduled in a couple of those workshops, and we found them to be incredibly valuable. We invited lots of members of staff from across the institution and learnt the theory, but then spent an hour at the end of the session all applying that to practice. And we found that to be incredibly valuable. We found the technique to be very useful to apply. So we started those workshops to be starting to put together the blueprint. It does involve, because there's so many interconnections that create the experience for the students, it does require the engagement of so many people across the institution to actually put that together. Not just to put together the blueprint, but also to take some ownership to the changes that we want to make to the service to the students afterwards, so to provide some ownership of that as well. We are currently running a variety of focus groups with academic staff and with students. We've developed the blueprint, we've identified the various fail points and weight points that we have within the system. We've taken the feedback from students from the mystery shoppers that we had. We had some video diary mystery shoppers who did a kind of 3 weeks worth of regular video diary for us. We also have a fairly standard questionnaire of enrolment that we've looked at from previous years, and we have a lot of sessions where academic staff and students give us their feedback about the enrolment process, as well as those staff who've actually worked on the induction activities and the enrolment activities for the students. So we took all of that information and also added to that the time cards that Rachel's talked about, because we were aware that there were some wait times in the system anyway. So we collected together all of that information. We've identified our fail points within the blueprint. So what we're now doing is using that to form the structure of the focus group. So what questions do we want to ask, and which parts of the process are we focusing in on to create the enhancement of the relationship with the student. And again, because we have the Student Employment Agency, we're able to use that as a structure to facilitate the student focus groups. We also have things like an annual student rep conference. We ran a workshop with the students there to talk to them about their enrolment experience, and that's where we've been doing things like exploring the different terminology that we use and whether the students are understanding that, or whether it actually conjures up something completely different in their minds. For example, we call the time that a student spends with a tutor to choose their modules is not consistently but largely called academic counselling. Students don't like that at all. So that's been one of the things that we've been kind of talking through with the students is, you know, what does this conjure up in your mind? It conjures up the fact that I've already got a problem and I haven't even started. I already need some really serious help and I'm not aware of that. So the terminology is actually really important, and the things that it conjures up in a student's mind, particularly a new student, the anxiety that you might be creating at a really important time, just by the way the terminology that you use for things, and you're only going to really find that out by talking to the students about what their expectations are. So in terms of the first draft, we just used lots of post-it notes and lots of blue tack. Jean and I, after we'd had the workshops with the students, we went away into a room and just tried really to fit in all of the different processes that we had, tried to put them into the right flow. Because we're talking about induction activities that happen differently across the institution, we tried to focus on particular groups of students that would give us a really good core of activity to put onto the blueprint. And there are some parts of the process where it might happen, one bit might happen before another bit for certain groups of students. So we tried not to get too bogged down in all of that actually, and tried to just kind of have a pretty clear picture of what could have happen and what should happen to record where there were differences and which groups of students that those might affect, so that if we'd identified that that particular complex point was also a fail point, then it's worth your while taking the time and the investment to drill down into that and apply all sorts of different techniques. Otherwise it's just noise in the system essentially, and you don't need to delve into it so much. So we tried to bring a level of simplicity to something which is actually quite complicated, and that's quite hard, to just keep reminding you that yourself that it's the students that are important, and to go beyond the silos that happen to make the induction and the enrolment work for students. Our finance department's involved in building the fee, our quality department and our faculties are involved in building the curriculum. Our academic registry equivalent department is responsible for making sure that the progression of the students is right, or the admission of the students is right, so the record basically is there. The student union engage in different induction activities, student services do other things. It's a really complex picture, and you've got to get beyond those silos and bring everybody together to effectively do that. And the experience of the team in designing some of these processes in the first place has been really useful to capture that. We've tested it out. We used Visio as a tool, and actually we're happy that that's the tool that we will use for our kind of first draft of the blueprint. And having used that and identified the fail points on that, we've discovered through the JISC networks the Archimate is actually quite a strong, good tool to use. So now when we're drilling down into the fail points, doing some further work on that, now we'll use the Archimate as a tool to enable us to do that. And when we come to, we talked a bit earlier about reviewing what we've done, when we come to that we'll also use Archimate to do that, but we're not going to recreate what we've already captured. We've tested it out with key stakeholders, and that is really important, to not just keep it internally within the project, but to share it very much with the providers of the service, so to make sure, as I said, that all the way along the project we're trying to ensure the buy-in of people who are going to be taking this forward after the project is completed. And we have found it very much to be an iterative process, and that's actually been quite valuable to take that, to come at it from an understanding that this will change and it will develop and it will, you know, the complexity of it will come, and not to get too bogged down in that from the start. Really, it's been quite important for us. And we have because of the complexity of the process, we have needed to be really quite focused in terms of the groups of students that we're trying to record it for. So we've gone for our first year full-time undergraduate joint honours students. They're a large group of students, and very complex ones, and if we can crack it for them, we can crack it for everybody else. And the need for us to focus on the full-time undergrad single honours students at this stage is not so great, because if we've got it all captured within the blueprint, the process that they're going through for their fees and their loans and everything else will kind of fall out as a natural consequence from that. This is our blueprint. It has been a long process to go through to develop it and to capture the right information. So we're taking the student journey right from application, recording the different stages that the students go through. So it is very much about thinking at it from the point of view of which are your contact points with the student. So there are massively complicated business processes here, but they're below the line in terms of the visibility to the students. So we're now drilling down into those where those business processes are causing a fail point for the actual student journey. We're not attempting to document in terms of business flow process, the whole of the business process. We're documenting it for the fail points. Really. What we have identified through looking through the blueprinting process, also through the data that we've collected so far, are the fail points, and what we're doing now is looking at those and drilling down into those. So we're looking at all of the communications that we have with the students, and they are a focus of some of the focus group discussion with the students. We had taken a decision that a lot of our processes are online. We offer online application and we also offer online enrolment, so that we wanted a lot of the communication with the students to be going through online. What we're actually getting from the students is a certain degree of anxiety that's causing, particularly for the first year students. What we'd pared down to what we thought was dead basic information. You need to arrive at this time at this date, and actually they were like, I want a tangible thing coming to me through the post that tells me this, and this is me and it's personal to me. Because there's a cost associated with all of that, so what we're doing through the project is trying to identify what are points, and what are the bits of information that the students want tangibly, and how can we develop the relationship with them so they become more comfortable and at home with some of our more virtual environments. One of the complexities that we have is that a student will be enrolling, take a September starting student, they will be enrolling in September, so or from the August if they're enrolling online. The curriculum needs to be there. By enrolment at DERBI, we mean the capturing of the personal information, but we also mean the capturing of the modules that they're enrolling for. And so therefore the curriculum all needs to be built there and it all needs to be ready. That process of validation, curriculum modification, curriculum build on the system starts way earlier than that. So one of the things that we're getting into is, which bit actually goes where, and how is the back office process reflected on the blueprint, because actually the impact in terms of the felt experience of the student comes a long time after that. So that's one of the issues that we've been kind of grappling with as we go through the project. That's the second part of the... We're finding that there are some times when different things are happening for students, and students might be moving backwards into the, if something happens, they'll have to shift backwards and around. And we're trying to capture some of the reasonably broad categories of student situation that might be reflected in there. So, for example, if a student is returning but they've got a prior debt from the previous academic year, they wouldn't be able to enrol. So we're capturing that on their blueprint, so we understand that process, but we're also that relationship, maintaining that relationship and understanding that, and not excluding them from the process in what would not be considered to be a very friendly or appropriate way. Okay. So we, in the process at the moment of doing the various feedbacks with students, we've identified the fail points and we're looking at simplifying the process. So we're looking at a variety of fail points and a variety of different approaches that we can apply to improving those. And they range from improving the communications that we have with the students, improving some of the back office business processes, for example around username and password creation and distribution and amendment that impact on students' access to virtual services. We're looking at things like explaining to students much more in advance the benefits of enrolment. We've not done much of a selling job on it. It's just a process we ask them to go through, and they're not really kind of bought into it. But actually, because certainly DERBI's systems are so integrated, once they're enrolled, they're a member of the student union, they've got their library card, they've got their Blackboard access, their Unimail account is set up for them, they can go onto the portal, it triggers their student loan if they're Student Finance England have got their application sorted and if they're eligible for a loan. But in theory it triggers their loan. So one of the things that we're doing is looking at enhancing the communication, enhancing the process that goes through the buy-in that we get from students to why we're asking them to invest their time and what the benefits are for them and how important it is to get it right first time. Okay. Are there any questions that you wanted to ask?
On the process map,
yeah.
On the extreme left is where you have, is that the part of the student journey? The text in dark, bold underline, extreme left?
This here?
That line there.
To the left, to the extreme left.
Oh, here?
Yeah, yeah.
They're the, you know when Paulina was talking to you about the, they're on the slide. So we've used the blueprint that is detailed on the slide. So they're the stages, what's happening, what's visible to the students, and what's below the line. Yeah. So they're the stages that it goes through. Yeah. Excellent. Okay. We aren't quite ready for lunch yet, I don't think. And what we're going to do this afternoon is quite a practical session about how we've put together the blueprint, and what we're going to do is get you guys putting together your blueprint. So you probably have some works in progress or some things that you're starting, or however you're coming to it, that's absolutely fine. And if you want to be within your project group, or if you want to kind of split between you, that's also fine. So and that'll be an opportunity just to explore some of the issues that you might be coming across when you're putting together your blueprint. So you can call on Paulina or myself or Rachel to talk you through how we might have tried to address that for ours. And then Paulina's going to talk to you about some of the service enhancement techniques. So once you've identified your fail points, what kind of things that you can do to try and overcome those and to work through those, really. Okay. We've got about 20 minutes before lunch. Do you want to, we can go through to the other room and just do some informal chatting, or is there anything else that you wanted to raise on the presentation so far? Yeah.
Got a question from Sharon.
Yeah.
Can I ask Sue if we can have access to the slides?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, don't worry about the blueprint. You will see in more detail our because I appreciate that there is so much detail in it. You can't see it very well, but you will have per table or whatever. You'll have a full. I think it is 2 sides of A3, something like this, in front of you. So you might be able to use it as an example, or maybe whatever you'd like to do with it, really, as a starting point of your drawing exercise, analysis, whatever you want to call it.
Could I ask that the fail points that have been identified, were they kind of expected, or was it completely random? Or?
We knew wait time would be an issue for the students who come in and enrol on campus. We have about 50% of our students who enrol online at home, and about 50% who come in. What we do is, the process that they go through is that there are various stages to it. So if they've not got their username and password, they would go and get that. If they have got it, they just go directly to the self-service, which would be the keying in, they sit at the PC and key in their details. If they've done all of that, so they've enrolled online at home, they go to their confirmation. So that's basically saying, yes, I am here, and just checking that the modules that they've chosen are actually the ones that they still want to do, because now they're on campus, they'd have had an opportunity to sit down with their tutor and talk about what choices they wanted to make. And then they get their ID card. So there's those 4 stages of the actual enrolment process. And we knew that waiting would be an issue, so we set out to put the time cards in place. We'd found that it was taking longer than we had anticipated that it would take, so we were surprised by the data that was coming out from there. And also we have some arrangements in place to try and manage the demand for enrolment. So we have an enrolment schedule, for example, that should spread the demand for the service across the week. But because we try and be responsive to students' needs, we don't traditionally turn students away. Some universities would do. We don't say, your enrolment session's not until Wednesday, for example. And what we found with that is that the impact of that has just been, we've had 3 days during the week that have been incredibly busy, and therefore the queues have been incredibly long, and 2 days of the week where they haven't been so much. So that's one of the issues that we've been looking at. The other thing which is contributing to those wait times is we need to be smarter at managing the experience of students during the first few weeks from a student point of view and not from a department point of view. So, for example, they might be going from an event which is a large lecture theatre, 200 students, that's run by the faculty, into an enrolment session where, of course, they're one-to-one, either with an individual or with a PC, depending on what stage they're at the process. Well, of course, that's going to create queues. So, so one of the outcomes of the project is that, you know, we're needing to look much more holistically at the early experiences of our students, and very much from a student point of view, because it's you know, some of the issues are of our own making.
Is this the first time you've had, as a university, the full bird's eye view of the process that students actually, because we're finding that not everyone is as engaged with the project for that reason.
Right.
People have worked in silos. They've been quite aware of the process that they need to get done.
Yeah.
And opening it up so everyone can then see the entire process.
Yeah.
Is being challenging.
Yeah. It is the first time that we've had the process mapped out fully. When we introduced online enrolment, for example, we were very much looking at just the enrolment experience of the students, whereas this project is giving us an opportunity to look at the student journey, basically from take a first year from an applicant to arriving on campus, engaging in the freshers events and activities, the faculties induction, the central services induction and support, just big social and open events for students and the enrolment process, and we've had that opportunity to look at it across the board. And I think there are pockets of resistance to that, but I think it's more, the more overwhelming feeling is one of curiosity and wanting to actually see how their thing fits into the other. Where we are experiencing more of the resistance is where that would need to change to improve that.
Yeah.
And which bit do you choose to make that change and to make that?
Do you think that's also been because of where the project's been embedded in the university?
Undoubtedly so, yeah. We've absolutely benefited in terms of the university has a very, very strong commitment to enhancing the student experience, and that's absolutely embedded in everything that we do, whether it's from your business planning process that all of the faculties and departments go through. It's the criteria around the student experience are very clear. Financial bidding process is very, very clear about the benefits to the student experience. Staff Excellence Awards, very focused on student experience. The staff development events and activities are about the culture of the place in terms of the student experience. So it's that connectivity and that real drive and commitment to improving the student experience that we've, as I said, been able to piggyback on. That's why I wanted to talk to you at the start about the project and how it fits in with the rest of the structure of the organisation.
Two questions. One from again from Sharon, asking Sue to mention about your piloting of some of the results of your findings in January intake.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, DERBI is relatively unusual actually in the sector that we have a good size intake in January. Of course, this year with the change in the market, we've increased that. So we've got a fantastic opportunity to pilot our changes. So we've got over 500 students who are joining the university in January. So they'll be going through the enrolment processes. So while we can't replicate the absolute mass enrolment and induction orientation activities that affected the impact on us in September, we are able to pilot the different approaches. So we'll be doing things like looking at ways that we can more effectively manage demand for the service, looking at ways in which we can more effectively look at our capacity to avoid students' wait times. We're also looking at the service-scape, so the environment in which we offer our service. So what can we do to enhance that and to make that more appropriate to students' needs and to be developing the relationship with students during that time. So it's a real opportunity.
I've got questions coming in thick and fast.
Okay.
Question, excuse me, from from Birmingham asking how you have considered those coming in from clearing.
We've been pleased that we've been able to reduce actually the number of students who've come through clearing. That's been an approach for the university for a while, so we don't have that many students who join us through clearing. And we have been able to look through admissions process. That has been a previous focus for our customer relationship management, so we have been able to pick up the clearing students much more effectively. But actually the university, because of the nature of the student body that we have, we through the retention strategy now, the student experience strategy, have other mechanisms of identifying the students who are at-risk students. So, for example, now the university has a comprehensive attendance monitoring process that kicks in to support those students who are starting to miss their sessions. So, attendance is such a fantastic early indicator of potential for withdrawal or difficulties of students, and that's able to kick in on a very supportive basis. So we don't do anything particularly for clearing students. We do have a separate induction and enrolment activity for international students and a separate get ahead process for the students with disability, and for the other ones we have for the other groups of students we have as I say, quite sophisticated support mechanisms to be able to identify those students who are particularly in need of support. The same would apply for the returning students, so we're able to identify quite early on those students who might have not achieved at the pace that they would have wanted to in the previous year, or might be carrying gaps in credit or things like that. So we're able to identify them very quickly for programme teams to be able to have interventions specifically for those students, but we don't cluster the clearing students.
Okay, I've got a question from Jean for the participants. Could I ask if the other projects feel that the experience at DERBI resonates?
Yes. Some of the things that the feedback that we've had from the students in terms of the survey, we've got about 90 students that we've managed to track from a survey from prior to their arrival at Swansea University to sort of the induction stage into their subject area. We've had far more respondents, but we've been able to match the emotional indicators on those two surveys for the students. And there's been some surprising things actually that have come out of those, in that the students haven't felt that they've been prepared enough for the transition from high school, or whatever means they came, primarily high school leavers, into the university. And that's added hugely to their anxiety around the information that they've been receiving from the university. We also moved to an online process, and feedback from the students were that we send things out electronically. They're not reading the emails. They actually want something because it's something they experience with their parents. And that's very important as a sort of rites of passage in the transition into university, that it's something they go through. Parents have been huge in shaping their decision for coming to the university as well. And that's something that we hadn't considered.
And actually, for those shaky early moments, the interaction with parents in terms of retention is so important. To help them to understand what's happening to their member of the family who's gone to university is really quite important.
And it's also the feedback that we're getting is making us look more critically at how we best can use the time for the what was Freshers Week to perhaps eliminate some of the anxieties that students have fed back through to us. That, you know, it's very different. Every school does something slightly different with induction. Some schools have picked up because they have perhaps a more rigorous quality process, that students aren't coming prepared, so they have built into their courses modules where they sort of go through certain things with the students. Other schools don't do that. And the feedback that we're getting from the students is that's what they anticipated Freshers Week would actually be, perhaps including some of these areas that we've not looked at including. So for us, it's looking now at the feedback that we've had from the students, some of the interviews that the students have given us, the free cells and the surveys have been phenomenal in terms of students really valuing having a voice in the whole process, and being able to make a change significantly, not only for them at this point in time, but also for other students coming through.
Yeah.
But a lot of what you've said has resonated in terms of what we're experiencing.
Good.
We're not quite as advanced as you, because I think perhaps the thing that I've been a bit surprised is you said you've benefited from where your project's been embedded. I think in some respects it's been harder because of where my project's been embedded, because I've had to do so much communication, so much getting out into the university and having to explain myself time and time again, that for something that I anticipated at the start of the project of being a small part of the project has actually taken about 60% of my time.
Yeah. We find that too, actually. We spend a lot of time talking to people, trying to raise the profile of the project, trying to get people engaged in the project. And wherever possible, we try and do that through big group events. So we will talk at faculty conference or do through newsletters and things like that to large groups of staff as much as possible. But there's still the frustration. You always find somebody who doesn't know anything about it.
Hi.
Yeah.
This is what I'm doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question of all of you? How scalable do you think this approach is? If I were to, so now I'm grappling with it at the moment. I've got a planning meeting in February, but we're thinking about the next phases of this work. And I just wonder, because of the complexity of the piece that you found yourselves in, whether there's more scope to look at pre and post admission, or whether the approach would apply to the other stages of student life cycle that you identified in the core.
We are very interested to apply it to grades, for example, when students go through to a student's assessment. I think that would be a really useful stage in the life cycle to present, to apply it to, because again, the interconnectivity of all of that, so the faculty activities, the support through the learning centres, and how that information is communicated to the students, the shift to use of the web for distribution of that, how students get caught in that for deferrals and referrals of assessment, and how it affects their progression, all those kinds of things. So we'll be interested in that stage of the life cycle as well, but we also think there's massive scope to further explore the stage of the life cycle that we're at, basically.
The feeling I'm getting is that it seems applicable to areas where you've got tight control. So these processes you have to have ownership and control over, and then as one moves more into the sort of curriculum delivery stages, that becomes sort of devolved out to departments, schools, faculty, and it's not centrally controlled.
Things that are sent for us, we're looking at, I mean, our project management board have said that the stuff that I've done, because we focused it on home undergraduate students, first years only, already the feedback has been that it's worth looking now at, you know, international students, because there's huge benefits. But when you start looking at all the different categories of students that you have, even in the first year, there's about 6 different variables. We're only looking at one student, one area of student life cycle, and I've got 6 others that people are going, this is brilliant. You know, how can you do it? And I'm thinking, well, no. I'm sorry, it's taken 10 months, you know, just to get to this one. And there's more buy-in, more people are seeing the benefit of it, and it's something that people are trying to see how they can actually roll it out.
I think one of the things that we've discussed is potentially dissemination of our experience and result of this project, and actually dissemination not only outside but certainly primarily within the university, and actually talking to other meaningful stakeholders within this process. Some of them that are maybe closer to us and centrally controlled, and some of those who we can't control, but actually making awareness of their role and their importance in this process, and how what they do impact upon all of those interactive activities and largely, of course, student experience. Now, it is only through the communication and discussion that potentially we are planning to organize towards the end of the project as an outcome and so on and so forth, that you can possibly to draft some kind of common project, an idea where I think maybe stakeholders will be happy to actually collaborate on a specific issue that you think is important. I don't think we should be approaching the kind of top-down approach. We think is great. Therefore, everybody is going to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. There is far too many parties involved in this student experience within the university. I think it's only through the mutual agreement, dialogue, and consensus that you are developing on the project and saying, we think it's going to work. We have parties that are willing to actually have a go.
Your conference is scheduled to end in 2 minutes. Please dial 0131 650 4933 to have this extended.
Are there more questions, or should we break?
Well, I think I'm quite happy to carry on questions and discussion on over the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But we should perhaps thank our colleagues
Okay.
virtually for attending.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much for joining us. We will provide the slides, so you will be able to have a look at those. But obviously, you're free to contact anybody from the DERBI project, and we're happy to talk you through our approaches and what we've done. I hope you find it useful. Thank you.